Hi YouTube, this is Danielle, the domestic scientist, and in today's video I'm participating in the Beauty, Decor, and Lifestyle Tag Fall Edition by Really Good Living. And also I'm working on a DIY. I'm going to paint this charger plate from the Dollar Tree. I want it to be very MacKenzie-Childs inspired because I am working on the MacKenzie-Childs Thanksgiving tablescape. So if you want to know a little bit more about me, stay tuned. Okay, so the first question in this tag is, what does my channel name mean? So Danielle, the domestic scientist, is a little bit more about me as an individual. So when I wanted to start my YouTube channel, I really wanted to do a channel that was kind of like a modern day home economics style channel for women. But it was just a place where I would kind of take you through a little bit about what I'm going through and how I approach different things around my house. So I purchased a house earlier this year, and so I am working on doing different things around the house, and I do take things from an experimental standpoint. So I know I have done a lot of decorating on my channel so far, and that's because, you know, obviously I'm in a new house, and one of the first things you want to do is you want to get your furniture, decorate, all that good stuff. And so I'm not one of those people who's super creative. Like, I can be creative, but it takes a lot out of me, and it's not something that it just happens for me. It's something I have to work at, and so it's an experiment and a challenge. So when I do a decorating video, for me it's a challenge, and I'm always working to kind of stretch my capabilities and really expand my set of talents and skills. Now, when it comes to the kitchen, that's where I probably do the most experimentation, because I'll try new recipes, or I'll just buy some food that I think this might come out together well, and then I'll just cook it and just see what happens. So I think it has a lot to do with how I approach life. And then also I do have a degree in chemistry, and I think that probably drives the way I think, or maybe the way I think is what drove me into a particular career field. I did work out of college in a lab for a couple years. I just really didn't like it, and so I haven't done that in a long time, a very long time, but it does still color the way that I approach things in life. And so for me, a lot of things are an experiment. So I think Danielle, the domestic scientist, was a fitting channel name for me. Okay, so the second question in this tag is, what is my favorite fall drink? And I'm going to say a chai tea. I absolutely love tea. I drink tea all the time. And I think chai is one of my favorites because it has a lot of warm fall spices. And I especially love the lattes that they have at Starbucks. They are just amazing and incredible. So I'm definitely going to say a chai tea is my favorite fall drink. Okay, so the next question is, if I could buy any type of food, what kind would it be and why? I'm going to say fruits. Fruits are my favorite foods. Fruits can get very expensive, but I love fruit, and I like to try different types of fruit. On my channel, I did a cooking experiment where I had purchased some jackfruit for the first time, and I purchased it fresh, and I had only watched a couple YouTube videos about cooking it in the past, but I didn't even know what it tasted like. So I brought this fruit, I did a whole video around it, and it was one of those times for me to experiment with something new and exotic. So if I could buy any type of fruit, like, I would love to travel the world and just taste all different types of exotic fruit. And I'm actually working on doing something interesting with a banana flower, and that is coming up on my channel probably sometime before Thanksgiving. So I'm super excited about trying that out as well. Okay, so the next question is, if I could go anywhere in the world right now, where would I go and why? There's so many places I would love to travel to. I've always wanted to go to Tahiti and stay in one of those overwater bungalows, which is kind of crazy because I can't swim, so I don't know why. I'm just obsessed with going there, but that's super expensive. The plane tickets alone are just like outside of my budget, so I don't know about that. But the other place that I've always really wanted to go, I know this is a weird one, but I've always wanted to go to Halifax, Canada. And if you guys are fans of the movie Anne of Green Gables, which I have seen all of the movies, I've always wanted to go to see where the movie was filmed, and it was actually filmed in Halifax. So I would just love to go there and to see, Prince Edward Island and just kind of that whole 1900s type environment. Really interesting. I do like the remake that they're doing on Netflix called Anne with the E. So for me, that's where I would always want to go. It takes me back to my childhood in such a positive way. So, yeah. Okay, so the next question is, describe myself in 3 words and elaborate. Ooh, okay. So I will say first, analytical is definitely me. I do think about a lot of things. I probably overthink things. Actually, that's what makes doing my YouTube channel so challenging, because I do overthink it. I was on the phone a couple days ago with Glamour Ellen, and we were talking about a video, and I don't know, I was a little stressed out about it, and she was like, "You just have to stop overthinking it, Danielle." And I'm like, "But you don't understand. I overthink everything." Like, so as a person, I'm just very analytical, and I do overthink things a lot. The next thing is I am very talkative, as you probably can tell by now. I've always been like that. It's crazy because I talk pretty fast, and when I'm on my channel and I'm recording, I try to be mindful of not speaking too fast, and it seems like no matter what I do, I'm still going a mile a minute. So as fast as I talk, I just think even faster. So it's just kind of weird. So definitely very talkative and always have something going on in my head. Okay, and the last word to describe me is I really am a homebody. I like staying home. Don't get me wrong, I like to go out from time to time and have some fun, but the quarantine is not killing me. I am very happy going out maybe once a week for a couple hours, and that's it. And I am just loving it. I'm so introverted, so the social distancing is also not bothering me, not one bit. So definitely introverted, and I'm a homebody. Okay, so the next question on this tag is, why did I start my channel? Okay, so I started my channel because I've always wanted to do it, and I've been on the sidelines watching other YouTubers for well over 10 years now, and I did just get laid off during the coronavirus situation, and so I felt like this was the perfect time to do it, especially because I bought a house and then got laid off, so now I'm at home and I have all this time to do the things I really wanted to do. I was working in a corporate office, and I was stressed all the time, and after I closed my house, I felt like, okay, I'm living in this house, but I'm working all the time. I don't get a chance to enjoy it. I hadn't had a chance to really unpack or get it, clean the way I wanted to and have it organized the way I wanted to. I had things in boxes. And so I just said, now that I have this time on my hands, I really want to give myself a couple of months to get my YouTube channel off the ground, because I've wanted to do it for just so long. And so I feel like if you have the time and you have like the resource material and you've got enough going on in your life that would make for an interesting channel, I think everybody should just get started if that's something that they've always wanted to do. Okay, so the next question on this tag list is, what advice would you give your children? I would say to really, I think this is more for parents who have children, is to really help your kids develop their interest and know what they like and expose them to a lot of different types of things so that they'll have a good idea of what they like. For me, in my situation, I do have a degree in chemistry, but I was exposed to science at a young age, and I liked it, but I wasn't in love with it. And when I realized career-wise, it's just not what I wanted to do, and I hated every waking moment of my life, I didn't really get enough exposure to a lot of other things. So once I left that field, I just didn't know what I liked. I had to start from square one, just trying to figure out, okay, if I'm not in a lab somewhere, what would I want to do with my life? And trying to discover my passion for me was a really hard process, because I just had been exposed to so much science at such a young age that that's really all I knew. And while I did like it, I wasn't in love with it enough to want to do it for the rest of my life. And even if you like something career-wise, it's important to not only just like something, but for whatever you choose to do in your career should align with your personal values. And what I was doing was not aligning with my personal values. It didn't align with the way I wanted to live my life, and I hadn't really envisioned that part of my life. I was looking at it where you're good at something, you've been exposed to something, you're on this track, make it work, get this degree, get this job, and it wasn't really about, okay, but once you've done all that, how do you want to live your day to day? Like, do you still want to be in a lab coat working at the bench in 10, 15 years? Those weren't the type of questions that I asked myself. And once I realized it's not at all what I wanted, I really didn't know enough about what I liked and didn't like to come up with a backup plan. So, for example, for a lot of teenagers, their first job is working at a restaurant or something like that. I didn't have a lot of those types of jobs. I had one, I guess, quote, regular job. And then after that, I'd always worked in somebody's lab. So when I left the scientific field and decided I wanted a job, I didn't have a reference who didn't have a PhD like that. I was just like, I've never worked for any place outside of a lab. And it was just really kind of a weird experience for me to navigate out of that and into like the business world. So I would definitely say expose your kids to a variety of things, because whatever you like when you're young doesn't mean you're going to love it enough or even want to make a career of it. So definitely getting a broad sense of exposure when it comes to career fields, I think, is one of the most important things you can do for your children. Okay, so the next question on this tag is, what is my Halloween tradition? And I would say I've never celebrated Halloween. I just don't. So I don't have any traditions. I think, I take that back. I don't celebrate Halloween, and I've never celebrated it. But I have started buying candy because now I live, in a suburban neighborhood, and the kids do, come around. So pretty much it's leave the candy at the door. That's my new Halloween tradition. It's like, I'm going to stay in my house and mind my business and be the introvert and just leave a bag of candy at the door. That's my Halloween tradition now. Okay, so the next question is, what is my favorite home decor store for fall? I'm going to say Home Goods. I think Home Goods is a really great place to start all year around. Okay, next question is, what is my favorite superhero and why? Okay, my favorite superhero is Superman, and I think more than Superman, I actually like Clark Kent much better than Superman. And I really like Dean Cain as Clark Kent. He was my favorite. But interestingly enough, as a girl, I grew up in a house full of girls. And so I didn't watch a lot of superhero movies until I was a little bit older. So I'd already seen the television series as a young kid that came out in the 90s. And so I had watched that before I had even seen any of the Christopher Reeve movies and stuff like that. So that is my favorite superhero. And really, I prefer Clark Kent. Superman, I could take it or leave it. What is my favorite brand of cosmetics? I'm going to have to say MAC. This is the struggle of just being a woman of color. I've tried so many products. I've gone to Sephora where they take a picture of your skin and they tell you what kind of foundation and things like that will match your skin tone. They don't have anything for me in Sephora. And I had Fenty came out. I went down to see if I could get matched with Fenty. Fenty had nothing for me. So by default, I'm going to say MAC. And actually, before I started wearing MAC, I started wearing Iman foundation. And Iman is a African model. And she had some pretty good foundations that matched me. The problem with Iman is just so hard to find. And so I just wear MAC the most because they have what fits my color. So that works for me. Okay, so the next thing is, what is my favorite fall treat? Ooh, I don't have a favorite fall treat. I don't, aside from the chai lattes, I don't really have a favorite fall treat. The next thing is, how will I be spending my holidays? I'm definitely spending my holidays at home. I have to tell you, this year has been so stressful for me and for my husband as well. We bought the house, then a couple of months later, literally after we closed, I wind up getting laid off. So when it comes, and And I got laid off after I bought furniture. So I bought couches, I bought my office furniture, I bought tables, like I bought all of that, and then I got laid off. So definitely I'm not traveling anywhere. We're just going to enjoy our home and stay here. And because of quarantine, it just doesn't make sense for us to go anywhere. Okay, so the next question is, who is my favorite home organizing guru? I'm going to have to say At Home with Nikki. I have been watching her channel for so many years before she really niched down her channel. And I think she does some really great home organization videos. And I've personally found a lot of them very helpful. Okay, next question is, what is the biggest waste of money in fashion this year? I'm going to be honest. I have no idea. I really don't know. I have not tried to think of any clothes or fashion, because honestly, when I was in the process of buying a house, you know, that is a very expensive process. So of course you go on a complete spending freeze until you close. And then we closed, and it was all about buying furniture and things like that for the house. And so I've been about the house the whole time. And then quarantine hit, I got laid off. There's no need for me to go out the house. So I don't care about fashion. Like right now it's like, what's the point? Because if you're not really going anywhere and half your face is covered, it's just, I don't know. I would say catch me on that one next year. Maybe I'll have a response. But for now, I was to say 2020, enough said. Just no. Okay, it says, if money was no object, what would I buy and why? Okay, so the answer to that question would be real estate. I love real estate. And I would honestly, if money was not a factor, I would flip houses, but not necessarily to make a profit. So for example, the house that I'm in, I love it, but there are so many little things that I would change, and I could probably very easily spend $250,000 making this house everything I think it deserves to be. But I know that if I did that, I would not get my return on investment. So if money weren't an object, I would really renovate houses and make them the best they can be without worrying about return on investment and just making a great house for the sake of making a great house. Like I would just do it all for the love of real estate. Like that's what I would do if money was no object. Okay, so the next question on this tag is, what is my biggest turnoff in a person and why? Ooh, that's a tricky question. I would say the biggest turnoff for me in a person is a person who's not willing to grow and not willing to change. I think you can deal with a lot if the person has the fundamental characteristics and willingness to want to do something. You can want the best for somebody, but if they don't want the best for themselves and they're not willing to grow and they're not willing to put in the work, there's nothing you can do. So to me, the willingness and that potential to want to be your best self is the most important thing. And if a person doesn't have that, I just can't. I just can't. And also, I would say people who are caught up in drama and they lose sight of the big picture. So like when people are caught up in little petty things and then they are willing to cut off their nose to spite their face, I don't like that type of stuff, because I feel like you can accomplish so much more in your life if you have the right perspective about a situation. And so for me, that's something else that just, it's a huge turnoff for me. Okay, next question is, what is my biggest addiction? I'm going to have to say real estate. Like, you guys don't understand. I download apps on my phone. When I'm in the market for a house, I will look at the interest rates every day. And I always have a mortgage calculator on my phone, and I'm always looking at real estate, whether or not I live in that town, whether or not I've already purchased a house. Like even after closing on my house, I look at all the other houses on the market. I want to make sure I got a good deal. Like I'm obsessed with it, and I love to watch house hunters. So honestly, for me, I would have to say real estate is a huge addiction. It's a problem. It's really a problem. Okay, next question, or this is the last question on the list. If there was something you could tell a YouTuber that other YouTubers don't tell you about being a YouTuber, what would it be? I would definitely say protect your privacy and be very cautious about how much of yourself you want to reveal and what types of things about yourself you want to reveal. And that's not a decision just for today, but it's a decision for down the road. If you want to do YouTube full time, that's fine. But if you have a career where your personal decisions online can impact your career, it's not so much about what job you have today, but in 5 years where you want to be, and in 10 years where you want to be in your career, what would that look like, and how would that be complicated by what you do on social media? I think that's very important to kind of see the big picture. Now, being that I said earlier, I'm very analytical, I do plan out various aspects of my life. So I know where I want to be career-wise, I know where I want my husband to be career-wise, and whether or not we actually attain our goals or not is kind of beside the point. But I am very conscious now about the type of image that I put out and how that would impact me for what I want to do. And that doesn't mean that I will never change my mind about my career goals, because that's always a possibility. But I certainly don't want to derail my future because I'm not thinking about my future today. And I would say that a lot of YouTubers are just pushing, hey, the channel and search engines and getting your followers, but not necessarily thinking about the image that you project and how that can influence you in the workplace, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. And for me, I think it's just a 360-degree view of your life for today and for tomorrow. And once you put out on social media, on these platforms, you can't take it back. So setting some really good, clear boundaries and holding to your boundaries and your standards, I think, is probably one of the most important things that you can do on YouTube. Okay, so I want to talk just for a moment about this DIY. Now, what I did here was I painted a checkerboard pattern on these charger plates that I purchased from Dollar Tree. Now, at first I did a black paint, but I didn't like the black paint over the charger plate, so I did go over it with a layer of brown paint that I mixed from red and black. I did try to draw the grid out a little bit with a marker, but that's not like a regular marker. I did it with a dry erase marker so that if I messed up somewhere, I could just erase that line. But as I was painting, I did try to paint over the line so that I didn't have those green marks, and I didn't want to try to erase after I painted. So that's kind of how I did this DIY charger. Now, I'm not crazy about the way it came out. I'm really not a good artist, but I do it. I do the DIYs, and I like to paint because for me, it's very soothing and stress relieving. So I do it for like the therapeutic portion of it. I'm not sure if I'm going to wind up using these in the MacKenzie-Childs tablescape. I'm going to see what it looks like on my table, and if I do use it, you'll see it in a few days, and if not, just know that I'm probably going to go back to the drawing board on this one. But as always, I'm Danielle, the domestic scientist, and I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment in the box below and let me know what you think of my DIY project for today. And if you have any questions or comments about my tag, I would welcome the discussion. So I hope that you guys have a great day and that you continue to enjoy this Vlogtober. I'll see you next time.